In today's interconnected yet fiercely competitive world, nations constantly strive to secure resources, be they natural, technological, or strategic, that will ensure their survival and growth. From energy reserves and advanced weapon systems to digital infrastructure and artificial intelligence, the race for dominance is relentless. Yet among all these valuable assets, there exists one currency far rarer and more precious than gold, oil, or data: trust. Trust between nations is not forged overnight. It is the product of years, sometimes decades, of consistent behavior, mutual respect, and aligned interests. In the volatile arena of global politics, where alliances can shift and rivalries can intensify within days, trust becomes a stabilizing force. It allows countries to collaborate in ways that go beyond formal treaties or economic agreements, and perhaps nowhere is this more evident than in the sphere of intelligence sharing. When two nations share intelligence, they are engaging in a form of cooperation that requires unparalleled confidence in each other's intentions. Intelligence is not just about facts or raw data. It is about insights, strategies, and sometimes even secrets that could alter the balance of power. By exchanging such sensitive information, each nation is essentially placing its security in the hands of another. This is not a casual act. It is an acknowledgement that the partner will not exploit this trust for its own advantage. Moreover, intelligence sharing is not simply about the present. It is about shaping the future. When two countries work together to monitor threats, prevent conflicts, or dismantle criminal networks, they are building a shared vision of security and stability. They are, in essence, writing a joint chapter in their history, one that can influence the geopolitical landscape for years to come. However, trust is also fragile. A angle breach can undo years of cooperation, replacing partnership with suspicion. This is why nations that achieve such a level of mutual confidence often invest heavily in maintaining it through regular dialogue, transparent communication, and a demonstrated willingness to stand by each other in times of crisis. In the end, in a world defined by shifting alliances and constant competition, trust is both the rarest commodity and the strongest bond. And when two nations are willing to share their most closely guarded intelligence, they are not merely exchanging information. They are investing in a shared destiny, one built on the belief that together they are stronger, safer, and more prepared for the challenges ahead. The biggest changes in the world rarely arrive with fanfare or public declarations. They don't usually begin with breaking news headlines, grand speeches, or televised ceremonies. Instead, they are born in the quiet, almost invisible corners of diplomacy and strategy. Inside rooms where the curtains are drawn, the air is tense, and only a handful of people are allowed to enter. In those moments, history begins to shift, not with applause, but with a single handshake. These handshakes are not ordinary gestures. They are silent contracts built on mutual understanding and often months or even years of careful negotiation. The individuals involved may not be well known to the public, but they carry the weight of nations on their shoulders. What is decided in these meetings can reshape economies, redirect trade routes, alter military alliances, or redefine the balance of power in entire regions. And yet, the world outside remains unaware, at least for a while. The secrecy is not accidental. Great changes often require delicate handling in their early stages. Public scrutiny, political opposition, or premature leaks can derail agreements before they have a chance to take root. In the quiet, leaders can speak openly, test ideas, and explore compromises without the pressure of a watching crowd. These private spaces allow for honesty, creativity, and boldness that public platforms rarely permit. When the agreements finally surface, sometimes months, sometimes years later, they may appear sudden to the outside world, but in truth, they are the result of countless conversations, calculated risks, and mutual trust built behind closed doors. A trade pact that revitalizes two economies, a peace treaty that ends decades of hostility, or a joint scientific project that changes the course of technology. All of these often trace their origins to an unpublicized meeting between a small group of decision makers. However, the power of these unseen beginnings lies not just in their secrecy, but in the vision that drives them. Quiet agreements only matter if they lead to actions that endure. The handshake is only the starting point. What follows determines whether the change becomes a fleeting moment or a permanent transformation. In the end, the world's most profound shifts are often invisible until they are inevitable. By the time the public sees the reshoot, the real work has already been done. In a quiet room, far from the cameras, with a handshake that no one saw and an understanding that only a few truly grasped. When countries agree to protect each other's secrets, they enter a realm of cooperation far deeper than trade partnerships or economic alliances. Trade deals are built on the exchange of goods, services, and mutual economic benefit. They can be renegotiated, canceled, or replaced if circumstances change. But when two nations agree to safeguard one another's most sensitive information, military plans, intelligence reports, diplomatic strategies, they are making a promise that goes beyond economics. They are pledging to guard not just data, but the very security and stability of their partner. Such an agreement is built on the highest form of trust. It is an acknowledgement that revealing these secrets to outsiders could cause irreparable damage, costing lives, destabilizing governments, and weakening defenses. The stakes are far greater than financial losses. If a trade deal is broken, companies may suffer and markets may react. But if a secrecy pact is broken, the consequences can ripple through national security, alliances, and even the balance of power in a region. This is why intelligence sharing agreements are treated with extraordinary caution. They are usually negotiated quietly, far from public view, and often involve years of relationship building between leaders, diplomats, and intelligence agencies. These agreements depend not only on political alignment, but also on a deep assessment of the other nation's reliability. Both sides must believe that the other will stand by its word. Even in times of political disagreement or economic hardship, the strength of such relationships comes from their fragility. Both countries understand that a single act of betrayal could destroy decades of trust. Unlike trade disputes, which can be settled through negotiations or legal channels, the betrayal of a secret often cannot be undone. Once sensitive information is leaked, it can spread uncontrollably, and the damage is permanent. That awareness makes both sides more committed to honoring their agreement. Moreover, protecting each other's secrets often leads to deeper strategic alignment. As intelligence flows between partners, so does understanding. Nations begin to anticipate each other's concerns, support each other's security objectives, and coordinate actions in ways that make them more formidable together than apart. In the end, an agreement to safeguard secrets is more than a policy. It is a bond. It says, your safety is my responsibility. That kind of commitment cannot be bought or traded. It must be earned, nurtured, and protected, because once lost, it may never return. It's not about having the biggest army or the tallest skyscraper. Military strength and architectural marvels may project power, but in the modern world, they are no longer the ultimate determinants of dominance. Today, the true measure of a nation's influence lies in its ability to gather, process, and act on information quickly and accurately. In an era where events unfold in real time and global markets can shift in seconds, the nation that knows more and knows it faster holds the keys to the future. Information is the new high ground. The ability to detect threats before they materialize, identify opportunities before competitors notice them, and adapt strategies before situations change is what separates leaders from followers. Armies can be matched and buildings can be outbuilt, but intelligence, the right information at the right time, remains the most decisive advantage. Speed matters as much as knowledge. In the past, months or even years might pass between the gathering of intelligence and the implementation of policy. Today, that window has shrunk to hours, sometimes even minutes. Cyber attacks can be launched and neutralized in the same day. Economic shocks can sweep through the globe overnight. Political movements can ignite and spread through social media before governments have time to issue an official statement. In this environment, being first to understand and first to act is often more valuable than sheer size or strength. This is why modern powers invest heavily in intelligence networks, satellite surveillance, cyber capabilities, and data analysis. These tools allow nations to see beyond their borders, predict developments, and shape events rather than merely respond to them. A country that can detect a threat early can neutralize it quietly. A country that spots an opportunity first can seize it before rivals even realize it exists. But information alone is not enough. It must be accurate, trusted, and actionable. False intelligence can be worse than ignorance, leading to costly mistakes. That's why the nations that excel in the future will be those that not only collect vast amounts of data, but also verify it, interpret it correctly, and integrate it seamlessly into decision-making. In the final analysis, control of the future will not belong to the strongest or the richest, but to the fastest and the most informed. In the game of nations, knowledge isn't just power, it's survival. If you study history closely, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The most successful nations did not rise to power through sheer size or brute force alone. They achieved greatness by forging alliances that others failed to anticipate. Alliances that at the time seemed insignificant, even irrelevant, but which later shaped the course of entire centuries. These alliances often began quietly, away from the spotlight. They might have involved two countries with no apparent reason to cooperate, separated by geography, culture, or ideology. To the outside world, they appeared minor, even temporary. But those who understood strategy saw the seeds of something much larger. Over time, these partnerships became the invisible engines driving political stability, military strength, and economic growth. History is filled with examples. In the early days, few would have predicted that a small coalition of maritime powers could dominate global trade for centuries, yet that's exactly what happened. The same can be said of scientific and technological partnerships that started with modest exchanges between universities and research centers, only to produce breakthroughs that changed how entire societies lived and worked. These alliances may have lacked fanfare in their infancy, but their impact grew with each passing decade. What made these unexpected partnerships so powerful was the element of surprise. Rivals and adversaries often dismissed them, underestimating their potential. By the time the rest of the world realized the depth of the cooperation, it was too late. The alliance had already redefined the balance of power. Another key factor was adaptability. The most influential alliances were not frozen in time. They evolved as the world changed. They expanded into new areas: military, trade, technology, intelligence, strengthening bonds and multiplying benefits for all involved. Modern leaders would do well to remember this lesson. The alliances that shape the 21st century may not look impressive at first. They might involve smaller economies, emerging technologies, or unconventional areas of cooperation. But if history is any guide, these are exactly the kinds of partnerships that can outlast empires, alter borders, and rewrite the rules of global engagement. In the end, the greatest alliances are not the ones everyone sees coming. They are the ones built quietly, nurtured steadily, and revealed only when their influence is undeniable. Alliances that start small but leave an imprint on the entire century. Two powerful Asian economies working together are sending a clear and unmistakable message to the world. The future will not be dictated by a single superpower. Instead, it will be shaped by those who understand the value of collaboration, by nations that combine their strengths, share their knowledge, and work toward goals that transcend borders. For much of modern history, global power has often been framed as a zero-sum game. One nation rises, another falls. But in today's interconnected world, that old model is breaking down. Economic influence, technological progress, and geopolitical stability are increasingly determined by networks of cooperation rather than the dominance of a single player. When two of Asia's largest and fastest growing economies choose to align, they are not only advancing their own interests, they are redefining the rules of global competition. This collaboration sends a powerful signal on multiple levels. Economically, it shows that the path to prosperity lies in complementing each other's strengths. One nation's technological innovation paired with another's manufacturing expertise, or one's financial capital invested in another's infrastructure. Strategically, it demonstrates that security and stability can be strengthened through shared intelligence, joint initiatives, and coordinated diplomacy. Culturally, it fosters people-to-people connections, deepening understanding and trust between populations. Importantly, the partnership challenges the idea that leadership in the 21st century will be monopolized by a single country or ideology. Instead, it promotes a multipolar world in which influence is distributed among cooperative powers. This not only balances the global order, but also encourages more nations to seek alliances rather than isolation. The true strength of such a partnership lies in its potential to inspire others. Smaller nations, seeing the benefits of collaboration between these economic giants, may follow suit, forming their own regional alliances and creating a web of partnerships that collectively shape the future. This ripple effect can lead to a more stable, innovative, and prosperous world, where progress is driven not by rivalry, but by shared ambition. In the end, the message is simple yet profound. The future does not belong to the loudest voice or the most intimidating force. It belongs to those who understand that in an age of complex challenges, climate change, technological disruption, shifting economies, no nation can succeed alone. Collaboration is no longer just a strategy. It is the foundation of lasting power. Data travels faster than bullets. In the age of instant communication, the speed of information has become one of the most decisive factors in global security. A bullet may cross a battlefield in seconds, but a piece of critical intelligence can travel across continents in less time than it takes to pull the trigger. This reality has transformed the way nations think about power, defense, and diplomacy. In an intelligence pact, this speed becomes a shared advantage. When partner nations agree to exchange information in real time, a threat detected in one corner of the globe can be analyzed and acted upon in another almost instantly. Satellite images, intercepted communications, cyber threat reports, these can be transmitted, verified, and relayed to decision makers before an adversary even realizes they've been exposed. The implications are enormous. In traditional warfare, battles were fought after lines had been drawn and weapons had been deployed. Today, the most important battles are often fought in the shadows, before a single shot is fired. A timely warning about troop movements, missile tests, or terrorist plots can allow leaders to take preventive measures, repositioning forces, engaging in diplomatic talks, or neutralizing threats covertly. This ability to act before events escalate is what makes intelligence pacts so powerful. Speed also changes the cost of inaction. In the past, delays in communication could mean days or weeks before a threat was understood. By then, options were limited and damage was already done. Now, with the right systems in place, the window for response can be measured in seconds. That is enough time to intercept a cyber attack before it shuts down critical infrastructure, or to stop an armed conflict before it ignites. However, speed without trust is dangerous. Sharing sensitive data instantly means both sides must have absolute confidence that the information will be used wisely and securely. This is why intelligence alliances are built on years of relationship building and proven reliability. A single breach or misuse of information can destroy the very foundation of such a partnership. In the end, the ability to move information faster than bullets is not just a technological advantage, it is a tool for peace. By giving nations the power to act before violence erupts, intelligence pacts turn speed into security and information into a weapon that can save lives instead of taking them. A single pact might look on the surface like nothing more than a stack of signed documents, just another piece of diplomatic paperwork added to the archives. But in reality, such an agreement can set into motion a chain of events with far-reaching consequences. What begins as a formal commitment between two nations can evolve into military cooperation, economic alignment, and a unified position on the most pressing global challenges. Diplomatically, a pact signals intent. It tells the world that the signatories are not just casual acquaintances on the international stage. They are partners with shared interests and a willingness to work together. This declaration alone can shift the calculations of other nations, altering alliances, negotiations, and even rivalries. From a military perspective, the agreement can open doors to joint training exercises, intelligence sharing, and coordinated defense strategies. Over time, armed forces learn to operate side by side, building trust and interoperability that would be impossible without a formal framework. In a crisis, these connections can be the difference between a rapid, coordinated response and a disorganized scramble. Economically, the pact can lead to harmonized policies, reduced trade barriers, and cross-border investments. As businesses gain confidence in the stability of the partnership, commerce flows more freely, creating jobs and boosting growth in both countries. Shared infrastructure projects such as ports, rail networks, and energy grids can physically bind the two economies together, making their prosperity interdependent. On the global stage, the effects can be even broader. With their relationship formalized, the nations can present a united front in international forums, influencing decisions on climate change, trade regulations, security frameworks, and humanitarian aid. A shared stance from two aligned powers carries far more weight than isolated voices, allowing them to shape policy at a regional or even global level. Perhaps most importantly, a pact can foster cultural and societal connections. Academic exchanges, tourism, and collaborative media projects can strengthen mutual understanding among citizens, ensuring that the alliance is supported not just by governments, but by the people themselves. In the end, a pact is never just paperwork. It is the starting point of a living partnership, one that grows, adapts, and expands over time. While the ink may dry quickly, the influence of the agreement can ripple outward for decades, quietly reshaping the political, economic, and strategic map of the world. When two nations can keep each other safe, they are doing far more than simply defending their own borders. They are making a statement, one that resonates far beyond their shared boundaries. By standing together, they tell the world, we decide our destiny together. Security is the foundation on which every other aspect of national strength is built. Without safety, economies falter, trade slows, and innovation stalls. But when two nations commit to protecting each other, they are securing the very conditions that allow their societies to flourish. They are sending a clear signal that they will not be dictated to, intimidated, or divided by outside forces. This kind of alliance goes deeper than temporary convenience or shared short-term interests. It reflects a deep level of trust that one partner will stand firm when the other is under threat, trust that sensitive information will remain confidential, and trust that mutual defense will be honored regardless of political winds. Such trust is not built overnight. It is forged through years of cooperation, shared challenges, and demonstrated reliability. The act of keeping each other safe extends beyond military defense. It includes sharing intelligence to prevent attacks before they happen, coordinating responses to cyber threats, and even assisting each other in times of natural disaster or humanitarian crisis. This cooperation turns two nations into a single, more resilient force capable of facing dangers that would be overwhelming alone. And while the benefits are immediate for those directly involved, the symbolic power of the partnership is just as important. It tells allies and adversaries alike that their futures are intertwined, that attempts to undermine one will be met with the combined strength of both. It shifts the geopolitical balance by showing that security can be built through unity rather than dominance. In a world where threats can emerge without warning, whether from hostile states, non-state actors, or global challenges like pandemics, the ability to protect each other is not just a strategic advantage, it is a declaration of independence from fear. It says, we will not wait for others to decide our fate. We choose it ourselves, and we choose it together. In the end, two nations that safeguard one another are not only defending their present, they are shaping their future side by side. This is not just about spying or technology. It's about something much larger. A deliberate effort to shape the balance of power in the world. Intelligence sharing. G, at its core, is not merely a matter of intercepting signals, analyzing satellite images, or monitoring digital networks. It is about building a framework where respect, partnership, and shared knowledge become the foundation for how nations interact and how global rules are written. In a world where mistrust often fuels conflict, the act of exchanging intelligence between nations represents a higher form of diplomacy. It says, we trust you enough to let you see what we see. That level of transparency goes beyond traditional political statements. It builds bonds that are difficult to break. When two or more nations pool their insights, they gain not only a more accurate picture of the world, but also a shared stake in maintaining peace and stability. Creating a balance of power in this way is strategic. Rather than allowing a single country to dominate and dictate the rules, shared intelligence helps distribute influence more evenly. It ensures that no one actor can unilaterally reshape the global order without others knowing and having the means to respond. In this sense, intelligence alliances act as both a shield and a compass against threats and a compass pointing toward mutual benefit. Respect is at the heart of this balance. Without it, intelligence sharing would quickly collapse into suspicion and secrecy. Respect means valuing your partner's perspective, honoring the information they provide, and refraining from exploiting vulnerabilities for personal gain. Partnership, in turn, means standing together when that balance is challenged, ensuring that cooperation is not just symbolic, but operational. And then there is the most powerful element, shared intelligence itself. Information shapes perception, and perception shapes policy. By aligning their understanding of threats and opportunities, partner nations can coordinate actions more effectively. Present united positions on global issues and deter aggression before it begins. Ultimately, this is about redefining how power is exercised in the 21st century. The strongest nations of the future will not simply be those with the largest armies or most advanced weapons, but those with the deepest networks of trust, the most reliable intelligence partners, and the clearest commitment to a balanced world. In such a system, respect, partnership, and shared knowledge don't just influence the rules, they decide them. In the end, the future will not be written by the strongest voice or the largest force, but by those who choose to stand together, sharing their strengths, their knowledge, and their trust. Every pact, every handshake, and every moment of cooperation is a step toward a world where no single power dictates the rules and where nations decide their destiny side by side. If we have the courage to protect each other, to listen to each other, and to believe in each other, then we will not only shape the balance of power, we will shape a century defined by peace, progress, and shared purpose